Hey, Steve Minani here. Before we get to our junkyard crawl video for today, just a heads up, on October 1st, if you're in the Durant, Oklahoma area, I'll be there live at Spanky Assiter's inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction at the Choctaw Casino and Resort Event Center, again in Durant, Oklahoma, where a whole bunch of cool collector cars are going to get sold, many of them at no reserve. And I'll be on the stage live doing commentary. One of the best cars and most special cars in that event is going to be the actual 58 Chevrolet Impala, fully restored, that was once owned by Peggy Sue Gerron. Yes, that Peggy Sue, the star of several Buddy Holly songs. Pretty, pretty, pretty Peggy Sue. That was her 58 Impala. That car is going to get sold at no reserve, again, on October 1st at the inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction in Durant, Oklahoma, October 1st. Be there if you want to take a shot at that car and just check out a great auction. Okay, let's get right into the junkyard crawl here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. Hey, Steve Minani here doing a junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts. And we all remember the Ford Falcon. If you like your Mustangs, or at least your first generation Mustangs, there's a Falcon hiding underneath that Mustang skin. Now, of course, the Falcon arrived in 1960 as Ford's first post-war economy car. Some say it was the Model T reborn, very austere, very basic, but from year to year, it became more and more complex and expensive. V8s, 4-speeds, convertibles. Well, this is a 1966, third generation of the Ford Falcon. And things changed a bit for 66. The convertibles were gone, two-door hardtops were gone, and these were only available as four-door sedans, two-door sedans, and station wagons. Now this one here is a two-door post, which was the most popular body style. In fact, of the 182,669 Falcon base cars built in 1966, 83,712 were two-door posts like this one. Now the downside to the Falcon was that while the muscle car era was in full bloom in 1966, there was no K-code 289 4-barrel, there was no Shelby Falcon. The best you could get in this thing would have been a 289 2-barrel with like a 210 horsepower. This one has the inline 6, and if we look at the VIN stamped here, I see this is upside down. There's a T. That tells us this is the 200 cubic inch 6-popper. The base engine would have been the 170 6-banger, so for $26 more, somebody got the 200 instead of the 170. Money well spent. Now we can see here the classic Ford 6-cylinder valve cover with the weird sculptured side, you know, again, waste not, want not. This hugs the valve springs and the rocker arms, so instead of being flat across, like maybe a Chevrolet valve cover, this has a scalped look. Now this one, the cylinder head has been removed, and here's those 6 cylinders in line. It's not a V6, it's not an H6 or a boxer. This is the classic inline 6-banger that was really very popular in Ford Falcons. And of course, we see here the Springs towers, which of course are the bane of anybody swapping big engines into a Falcon. More on that in just a moment. But again, these are the big towers here. But the best engine possible would have been, yeah, the sleepy little 289 2-barrel. The 1966 was the one and final year for the single circuit master cylinder. We still see it here. 67 would go to a twin circuit, which was a federal mandate. Other details we see are 4-lug wheels. Yep, 6-cylinder cars. Right there, 4 lugs, not the 5 seen like on a 289 car. And yes, 6-cylinder Mustangs also had 4 lugs, just like that. Again, belying their Falcon origins. Now we get to the side of this thing, and it's been in a crash. Last time this thing was on the road, shows here Vermont 1996, so perhaps some snowy winter day. This car slid into a tree or a stone wall, and its days ended. But the bones are still here. Now this is kind of an interesting one. I see a clutch pedal. Now you couldn't get a 4 on the floor in a base Falcon like this with a 6-banger, but you could get the 3-speed manual, and well, there it is. If you wanted an automatic, you paid another $160. So the automatic was not cheap. Again, 2-door post on this one. And when we say post, it's another way of saying sedan. And of course, the post refers to the full door frame and this thing right here, this fixed B-pillar right here. Again, 1965, you could get a Ford Falcon with the hardtop body, but that was a totally different design of a style. Now here's the trim tag right here, the door tag I might say. Maybe we'll zero in on that. Now the VIN we see here, there's that T once again for the 200 cube 6-popper, $26 more than the 170. We have transmission is a 1, which means 3-speed manual. 3 means a 320 open differential, and the 11 down here is the sales code for the Boston sales office, which means this is a New England car from day one, which explains the world-class rust. And again, the rear axle on this is the tiny little Salisbury 7.5-inch ring gear. Actually, it's not even, I think it's 6.75 inches, little grenade, 4-lug wheels once again, and tiny little 9-inch drum brakes. But something weird on this one is a rear sway bar. Look at that. Now that's somebody's add-on. That's not like a Shelby edition thing, but somebody bolted a sway bar. And stuff that fits a Mustang will fit a Falcon. So somebody went to the J.C. Whitney catalog, bought themselves a rear sway bar for a Mustang and bolted it on this for slightly better handling. Now this was a 3-speed manual, 200 cubic inch 6-popper, fairly peppy little car in its day. And again, we see here the back of the base Falcon. This is not a Futura, which would be a little spiffier with more chrome. But look at this, sold out of Spencer Ford in Spencer Brothers Ford in Northfield, Massachusetts. I think they're long gone. Now in the trunk, what do we find? Ah, there it is, yes, the classic Ford trunk floor / gas tank. We've seen this before. And right here, you can see that that's actually the top of the gas tank right there. And here's even the filler neck right here. That's where the neck would go from the side of the car. Now, again, I've said this before. These came with a rubber floor mat, pretty thick. But if you're the 3rd or 4th owner of this car and you take that floor mat out and you happen to say, hey, let me take the dead battery from the other car to the parts store, throw it in the trunk, it flips over upside down with even a little bit of a charge, positive and negative terminals hit this, you have a fire. So again, keep that rubber floor mat in place. Bottom of this trunk looked beautiful. The original ivory white paint, still shiny. And again, I always marvel at how the last part of any car to finally degrade is the inside of the trunk. It's just the best protected. But here's information on jack stowage instructions, jacking instructions right there. All that paper since 1966 when this car was brand new. How crazy is that? And you know, I mentioned earlier the problem with the Ford spring towers. This is Superstock magazine, May of '67, and I love, this is my favorite magazine because this is when funny cars and Superstocks were really first become a big deal. Inside of this is the Humpin Henry. There it is right there. This was an overhead cam 427 powered match race Falcon. And this had a straight axle up front, but it was based on a 2-door post, just like we're looking at here. But up in that top right corner, you can see where the McClellan brothers who built this thing nuked the entire inner fenders to put that 427 camera in place. And that's the only way you get a big motor. Look at the driver's compartment there, all just plastics, you know, everything's gutted. What a cool thing. But again, these early funny cars like this was a C experimental stock. Probably ran someplace in the 920s or something like that. But again, cool car, 4-speed transmission. So the bones of this thing may look like they're spent, but if you're building something like a replica of that, you're gonna run a tube frame anyway, and the floor can be made of tin. And so this actually could be a good candidate for a 427 camera, or maybe even a 5.4 camera, or something kind of modern. But again, it's gotta be overhead cams to be a Ford product from this period of time. But anyway, this Falcon, I think, has maybe flown its last mile, unless somebody wants to come make a funny car out of it. But here it is, man, 3rd generation for Ford Falcon. And again, the 2-door sedan body style was the most popular. Wagons and 4-door sedans were in the minority versus this. So these were popular with people who were buying their first car, or maybe a second car for the family, and just used it occasionally. But this one I think is pretty well gone. But if you want to see more Junkyard Crawl videos, we'll just come back tomorrow to Steve Mack's YouTube channel, and be sure to subscribe and tell your friends all about it.